first you got to touch on what you said. You got felonies that keep you in the system, and then you have child support that's just as vindictive and diabolical. I like to say sometimes because we don't know we can avoid it. So now we suffer from it because we didn't pay attention that it would be a problem. So we had dads that were making kids 10 and 15 kids prior to prior to my size, my age, being born in 67. They can afford to have those many kids because they weren't subject to child support like we were subject to child support starting in the 80s to right now. So the wisdom of telling them to dodge or prevent having kids outside of wedlock or having kids anyway and not having to pay for them, it wasn't given to us until started in the 80s, as far as I'm concerned, because no one really paid child support. So now you have it enforced. It's just used just as powerful as the felonies. Because why? They can pull you over. You can be incarcerated. You lose your job. You lose money you could have been used to pay child support. But my story starts that sex was a substitute for love. And I was actually engaging in sex in the fourth grade. And so it was not surprising, if you follow the trend of your life, that I'd be a dad by the time I graduated high school. And I was. My moral compass wasn't set to avoid things, pressures, and things like that, or what to look out for. I knew how to look out for the thugs and the scams, but I didn't know that there was this scam called non-responsible parenting.
Right.
Right. Because when you don't pay attention, you become a victim of it. And so I didn't even think about what was not given to me. And so when I started looking at sex and the confusion of sex and love, I thought I was getting what I needed, but not understanding the full ramifications of that choice. So then I just understand now. So when you talk about solutions, that's a tough one because human nature, you're fighting human nature and you're fighting parenting. Those two things come together. And
Right.
I think if you want to beat that idea of creating premarital sex, is you have to fill all the gaps in a person's life, and hopefully you have put yourself in a position that they'll make those choices to wait, because unfortunately if you didn't wait, it's hard to tell the story to your child that you must wait. But you can show, like I did for my son. I sent him a text message, $350,000. And he texted me back and he said, "What's that?" I said, "That's how much your dad has paid in child support since 1985. And if you don't want this on you, we're going to need you to pay attention to your life and who you lay down with and getting married and things like that." That's what you had to do as a parent to prepare them, because no one told me. And I was just living the best life I could with what I had. And that's what brings you to where you are today.
Wow.
So,
So yeah, that's a okay. So yeah, that's 350,000, right?
right.
So now you're talking the wealth. Now you're talking what you could have done, right?
Yes.
Right, which comes back to, like you were saying, we have to instruct them like we do in our mentoring program. You got to have a plan, right? That's why we jumped into the prevention. You got to have a plan, right? Um, you got to put that plan to the paper. You got to have a plan, right? And you can start that early, right? Because once you plant those seeds and plant them, right? You were saying it's kind of hard, right? That comes back to the seed, the DNA. It's kind of hard to tell them not to do what is already marked on that seed, right? When they refer to the sins of the fathers, right? Sins of the fathers is the DNA code. DNA, right, produces and introduces the whole world to who you really are, right? Right. So, Dave, what do you think? What do you think about and how we could work at that.
Well, Paul said something I think was significant, and that's what he was, that he didn't know. As I said last time I was here, is that you cannot give what you don't know. So many fathers are very young fathers today are upset because they're, as you said, they're paying all this child support. But that's the end results. That is the manifestation of what you did prior. This is your outcome. You planted the seed, this is your outcome. There's a system, and everything operates out of a system. But I think it's important that we look at the bigger picture. The bigger picture is that when we as men come into this world, if we don't have the kind of leadership that guides us in a direction to help us to make quality decisions, it's very difficult for us to be able to move in a direction that's going to move into prevention. And how do you make quality decisions? You make quality decisions based on the education that you get, not academia in the sense of institutions like colleges and what have you, but the education you get from your fathers. But unfortunately, we as fathers don't have a good foundation as men. So as Paul presented earlier, when I was growing up, I'm just like him, 4th grade, I might have been even sooner than that. I think it was kindergarten I was touching on girls. So, because this is the environment you around. And if that environment tells you that it is environmental, if that environment tells you that, hey, this is appropriate, this is what you do, what girl you going to be with, then you follow suit. But until you recognize that these behaviors are inappropriate, and most of the time nobody's telling you it's inappropriate, you find yourself engaging. Because just as you said, the flesh and the spirit are two different things. And usually nobody talking about the spirit, they're talking about the flesh. And if you think about the order that we're taught body, mind, and soul, or body, mind, and spirit. But that's out of order. So if you got the order of your existence wrong, you're going to operate wrong. If you got your steering wheel in the back and you're supposed to be going forward, that ain't going to go right. So we have to make sure that we teach our children, as what I did, son, you are a spirit housed in a body with a soul, which is a mind, will, and emotion. Once you get that mind, will, and emotion in check, in other words, as he said in the word, that you'd have to renew your mind. And he did not give you the spirit of fear, but a power, love, and a sound mind. We teach you and develop you in that sound mind, so then your will fall into place to move that body and control them emotions. But if we're not taught this, then 9 times out of 10, we all going to do, especially in our community, we're limited with a lot of knowledge. So in our community, we don't have the resources. He talked about $350,000. Now imagine what he could have done from a business standpoint. But we're taught to go in a direction that doesn't allow us to really be able to make the decisions to even think in that level.